Good morning. I'm Don Critchell, member of the UU Catskills Worship Committee. Our minister is the Reverend Dr. Leonisa Abrazone. Welcome, friends, guests, members, to our online service. Wherever you are, wherever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. At UU Catskills, we affirm that Black Lives Matter. We are a welcoming congregation for members of the LGBTQ community. We are a congregational affiliate of the Ulster Immigrant Defense Network, and we are active voices in the effort to address climate change. Unitarian Universalism is a liberal religious faith that carries no creed and welcomes all seekers. Thank you for joining us this morning. We would encourage you to stay muted. If you are new, welcome. We encourage you to visit our website at uucatskills.org. If you would like to be added to our mailing list, you may add your email to the chat box or online at uucatskills.org. We have an announcement from the Racial Justice Group. What could be done if money is divested from the police and the jails? You know where the money needs to go. Invest in the people. Invest in housing. Invest in jobs. Invest in mental health. Please join Citizen Action on Wednesday, August 26th, at our home base, Academy Green Park, to discuss and answer these questions together. In addition, we have our usual Monday and Thursday meetings. Monday for the Women's Conversation Circle with Pat Hurst, starting at 6:30 and going till 8. And on Thursday, August 27th, 7 p.m. is the Bedtime Story with Jane Podell. Welcome to the UU Catskills. We're happy to have you here. We encourage you to stay muted and put aside your concerns. Please enter into this sacred space and time. Our prelude this morning by Catherine is Caminito by Cora Fernelzon. Thank you, Catherine. We'll now have the affirmation. In a moment.
Too many buttons.
There you go. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love to all living beings. May we know once again that we are not isolated, but connected in wonder and joy to the mystery and miracle in the universe, in this community, and in each other. And our chalice lighting words are new this time. So if you have your chalice, that's good. We'll light the chalice, and then we'll do the words. And let's read this together. May the light of truth illumine our minds. May the spark of love set our hearts on fire. May the flame of freedom burn brightly within us, now and always. The opening words are dealing with the truth and meaning, which is our fourth principle for Unitarian Universalists. As responsible religious seekers, we recognize that we are privileged to be free, to have resources to pursue life beyond mere survival, to continually search for truth and meaning, to exist beyond bonds of dogma and oppression, and to wrestle freely with truth and meaning as they evolve. This privilege calls us not to be isolated and self-centered, believing that our single perspective trumps all others, but rather to be humble, to be open to the great mysteries of truth and meaning that life offers. And those mysteries may speak to us through our own intuition and experience, but also through tradition, community, conflict, nature, and relationships. As a faith tradition, Unitarian Universalism makes sacred the right and responsibility to engage in this free and responsible quest as an act of religious devotion. Institutionally, we've left open the questions of what truth and meaning are, acknowledging that mindful people will, in every age, discover new insights. And this was from Reverend Paige Getty, the UU Congregation of Columbia, Maryland. And now we will have Debbie Panero-Zucker to Not for Children Only.
Morning. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning. The book is called The Empty Pot by Demi. A long time ago in China, there was a boy named Ping who loved flowers. Anything he planted burst into bloom. Up came flowers, bushes, and even big fruit trees, as if by magic. Everyone in the kingdom loved flowers too. They planted them everywhere, and the air smelled like perfume. The emperor loved birds and flowers and animals, and he tended his own garden every day. But the emperor was very old. He needed to choose a successor to the throne. Who would be his successor? And how would the emperor choose? Because the emperor loved flowers so much, he decided to let the flowers choose. The next day, a proclamation was issued. All the children in the land were to come to the palace. There, they would be given special flower seeds by the emperor. Whoever can show me their best in a year's time, he said, will succeed me in the throne. The news created great excitement throughout the land. Children from all over the country swarmed to the palace to get their flower seeds. All the parents wanted their children to be chosen emperor, and all the children hoped that they would be chosen too. When Ping received his seed from the emperor, he was the happiest child of all. He was sure he could grow the most beautiful flower. Ping filled a flower pot with rich soil. He planted the seed in it very carefully. He watered it every day. He couldn't wait to see the sprout grow and blossom into a beautiful flower. Day after day passed, but nothing grew in his pot. Ping was very worried. He put new soil into a bigger pot. Then he transferred the seed into the rich black soil. Another 2 months he waited. Still nothing happened. By and by, the whole year passed. Spring came and all the children put on their best clothes to greet the emperor. They rushed to the palace with their beautiful flowers, eagerly hoping to be chosen. Ping was ashamed of his empty pot. He thought that the other children would laugh at him because for once he couldn't get a flower to grow. His clever friend ran by holding a great big plant. Ping, you're not really going to the emperor with an empty pot, are you? Couldn't you grow a big flower like mine? I've grown lots of flowers better than yours, Ping said. It's just this seed wouldn't grow. Ping's father overheard this and said, "You did your best, and your best is good enough to present to the emperor." Holding the empty pot in his hands, Ping went straight away to the palace. The emperor was looking at the flowers slowly, one by one. How beautiful all the flowers were, but the emperor was frowning and did not say a word. Finally, he came to Ping. Ping hung his head in shame, expecting to be punished. The emperor asked him, "Why do you bring an empty pot?" Ping started to cry and replied, "I planted the seed you gave me and I watched it every day, but it didn't sprout. I put it in a better pot with better soil, but still it didn't sprout. I tended it all year long, but nothing grew. So today I had to bring an empty pot without a flower. It was the best I could do." When the emperor heard these words, a smile slowly spread over his face and he put his arm around Ping. Then he exclaimed to one and all, "I have found him. I have found the one person worthy of being emperor. Where you got your seeds from, I do not know, for the seeds I gave you had all been cooked, so it was impossible for any of them to grow. I admire Ping's great courage to appear before me with the empty truth, and now I reward him with my entire kingdom and make him emperor of all land." And that is the story of the empty pot by Demi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Next, we will have Compassion and Contemplation by Mary Alice.
Am I on?
Yep.
The fourth principle of our UU strongly urges each one of us to recognize and appreciate the ability to reflect upon the truths and meanings of our own lives. We are all right now urged to open ourselves to great mysteries of life and to expand it by what we are enlightened by tradition, by community, by nature, by relationships. So let us here now take a moment to be quiet, to go inside ourselves Let us take a moment to explore what is deeply moving and significant for each of us right now. Let us take a moment to consider what's going on in our own lives. Take a moment to consider what really matters. May today's service and your own silent prayer provide you with comfort and affirmation for who and how you are, right here, right now. Amen.
Our congregation is sustained by your generous gifts. For the month of August, we're sharing our plate with the Center for Creative Education. There are several ways to contribute to UU Catskills. You can donate online via our website, on the mobile app, or with a text. Just go to www.uucatskills.org. The information will be shown on the screen while I play yet another tango, Adios Muchachos by Julio Cesar Sanders.
Thank you, Kathy. And now we have the first reading by Tom.
Good morning. This reading consists of adaptations from A Responsible Search for Truth and Meaning by the Reverend Chris Rothbauer. There is an apocryphal story online that goes something like this. Once upon a time, a man spread rumors that his neighbor was a thief. As a result, the neighbor was arrested. A few days later, the neighbor was proven innocent of the charges. The neighbor felt himself humiliated after his release and decided to sue the man for falsely accusing him. In court, the man told the judge, they were just comments. They didn't harm anyone. Before passing sentence on the case, the judge told the man to write down all the comments he had made about his neighbor. He was to then cut up the pieces of paper and on the way home release the pieces of paper into the wind. After he did that, he was to come back the next day to hear his sentence. The man did as the judge instructed, and upon returning the next day, he was told that before sentence would be passed, the man had to go find all the pieces of paper he threw out yesterday. I can't do that, the man exclaimed. The wind must have spread them, and I won't know where to find them. The same way, simple comments may destroy the honor of a person to such an extent that one is not able to fix it, the judge replied. Suddenly, the man realized his error and apologized to his neighbor, asking for his forgiveness. The moral for me is that our interpretation of truth can easily destroy the lives and reputations of others through no fault of their own. Words and actions, even those we believe to be true, can have devastating consequences for other people. When they do, no amount of apologies can ever truly fix things, because the consequences are carried throughout the world by the various winds. What if the neighbor hadn't been proved innocent? What if they sat in prison for years for the crime they didn't commit? Imagine if their family and friends had turned their backs on them, wrongly believing that their loved one was someone whom they didn't truly know. Our focus for this morning is on the fourth principle, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Understandably, given our movement's traditional advocacy of religious freedom, it is the free part that is usually emphasized when talking about this principle. This is not to say that freedom of religious conviction is unimportant. However, our spiritual ancestors, in their wisdom, realized that freedom had to be tempered, that unrestrained freedom could lead to abuse and potentially tear apart congregations and even our movement. It's not that there aren't times to call out bad behavior as a form of accountability. Certainly, the recent accusations of rape and sexual assault against men such as Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, and Roy Moore are examples of when such call-outs are necessary. But calling out people when we could more easily call them back in is a toxic behavior that breaks down trust and does little to encourage others to change the behavior we find so objectionable, whether they really should or not. To paraphrase a colleague with whom I recently had a conversation on this topic, my search for truth and meaning, any search for truth and meaning that denies the other 6 principles, is not responsible. I believe that without responsibility, our search has the potential to destroy communities, churches, families, relationships, and even the world. But with it, we can strengthen every soul we touch. You cannot engage in any behavior or believe whatever you want and be within the 7 principles. What if our congregations, though, could promote free and responsible search for truth and meaning as a way of upholding our other principles? We are a covenantal faith after all, dating back to the origin of our faith. So we've been talking about how to be in community our entire existence. Maybe, just maybe, the congregation is a place where we could learn to create and experiment with new ways and be the change that transforms the world for the better.
Thank you, Tom. Now we have the second reading. This is based upon a book called Truth by Hector MacDonald. Harrison Keeler's characterization of us, where he describes a Lake Wobegon family visiting relatives back east for the holidays. He mentions that the relatives are Unitarians. Then he says something like this. A lot of folks say that Unitarians have no beliefs. That's not true. Unitarians have very strong beliefs. It's just that what those beliefs are depends upon what book they last read. We are, it's true, often criticized this way when it comes to religious belief. It's hard to pin down Unitarian Universalists. Part of that is that we lack a creed or a God-given set of beliefs. Sometimes we are criticized, and rightly so, for having no beliefs. Other times, we are criticized, and rightly so, for having too many beliefs, that we believe anything we want. Sometimes those criticisms are appropriate, and sometimes they're not. We hold a fairly uniform religious value system, like that expressed in our covenant with the Unitarian Universalist Association. This covenant is our 7 principles, which we're reviewing this summer through our various services. Today, we are looking at the 4th principle called truth. Most Unitarian Universalists I know have not held the exact set of beliefs over the course of their lifetimes, but have shifted and altered and modified their beliefs as time has passed. And most are not embarrassed to admit it. From the time of the Greeks, we've been misled into believing that statements about the world must be true or false, right or wrong. Either ocean tides are controlled by the moon, or they aren't. Either gravity holds water in a cup, or it doesn't. And we have turned statements of facts into idols about which there can be no doubt. The earth is flat, we once said with certainty, and the sun moves around it. The earth is round, we later said, with equal certainty, and it moves around the sun. Then the earth is egg-shaped or pear-shaped. Is a later conclusion, and the sun is not a sun, but a star. What all these statements have in common is that they are each propositions that were true or false, right or wrong. They were not just estimate or guesses. They were statements of fact. There were no shades of gray. But it turns out that our statements about the world are only approximations, more or less. We hold beliefs because we want answers that are right, more or less. And the task is to keep working at it until we are more and more right. Newspapers use attention-grabbing headlines that are often written by the editor to engage the reader. The journalist who writes the body of the article may actually have a different take on what the headline says. Politicians spin truth to create a false impression. I watched the Jonathan Swan interview of Donald Trump recently. Trump said he believes in positive thinking, where if you believe and visualize something, it will happen. He also said he believes downsides happen too. He put a ban on China and Europe, which saved 100,000 lives. As Swan said, the virus was already spreading through the United States by the time the ban went into effect. Trump also went to Tulsa because it was almost free of the virus. Fox News said he got the highest rating there. And fake news downplayed it by mentioning how many people were there. Some selection of truth by the media. Our president also said, because we test more than anywhere else, we have more cases. He compared the 60 million tests in the United States, which could just be kids with a runny nose, to 11 million tests in India. He would not talk about deaths per capita results, which would make us look bad. So his use of selective truth. Partial truth, another type, comes from complexity. History affects how we view truth, like monuments for Confederate leaders. It was a fight for state rights. Or was it a suppression of slavery? And more partial truth. Do we allow autonomous vehicles on our streets? Tesla and autopilot killed a driver who hit a tractor trailer. And another autonomous vehicle that killed a pedestrian who was walking across the street. Economists will say it will stimulate tech industry and reduce hours of drive time. A trade union would worry about loss of jobs for truck and taxi drivers. An environmentalist would look at reducing congestion and resource consumption. Safety experts view reducing accidents due to human error and smartphones. And insurance industry must figure out how to change from charging a driver to the vehicle. And lastly, the security expert worries about hackers taking over the vehicle. So a selective viewpoint of truth. Artificial truth uses names and definitions. The Nova automobile did not sell well in Spanish-speaking countries. Nova means, when translated, no go. And who would want a car that doesn't go? Dog whistle words work for a selected audience. Welfare queen, war on drugs. Well, cocaine's okay, but crack is real bad. Affirmative action. Trump's caravan of Central Americans could be infiltrated by terrorists from the Middle East. And Antonio Delgado, who is a Democrat from New York, a married father of two, has a past as a hip-hop artist, showing him as a profane and threatening rap. Moral truths change over time. Look at the increasing acceptance of the LGBTQ community in the United States, and certainly other countries too. Recently, if you were gay, you kept in the closet, and it's still that way in many countries. Liberals like fairness, care, and liberty, whereas conservatives balance those values with authority, loyalty, and sanctity, according to Jonathan Haidt, a social psychologist. I'm going to skip it a little bit here and go on to talking about problems of using the military to control riots. People trained to kill an enemy are used against our own people. That is a moral decision. And public health officials make decisions based on the population. So they may ration vaccine to selected people or enact quarantines for those who may have been in contact with infected people. They have a tough job. Now, other public health things that we're getting used to are not smoking, wearing seatbelts, wearing shoes and shirt in a store. We're still working on masks during the pandemic. But back to Garrison Keillor. His characterization of us was accurate. A lot of folks say Unitarians have no beliefs. It's not true. Unitarians have very strong beliefs. It's just that what those beliefs are depends upon what book they last read. It's both a criticism and a compliment. We usually call it a search for truth. We sometimes call it a religious journey. Whatever we call it, we look forward to the next book, next encounter, next conversation, expecting our ideas to be more clearly formed and more adequate than before. Our religious values teach openness to new ideas and views. That value suggests an inherent uncertainty and tentativeness. If we are certain about our truths, we have no use for open-mindedness. Now we go to the closing words. And I think Phil's going to put them on the screen.
You want the extinguishing the chalice?
Yeah, let's do the extinguishing the chalice, and then I'll do the closing words. We have new words for the extinguishing the chalice. And we read together. Now may the love of truth guide you, the warmth of love
hold you, and the spirit of peace bless you
this day
and
and in the days
to come. Amen.
And now for the last word. This was from Jonathan Sachs, who was for many years the chief rabbi in the United Kingdom. He also sees a place for different versions of truth. Truth on earth is not, nor can be, the whole truth. It is limited, not comprehensive, particular, not universal. When two positions conflict, it is not necessarily because one is true and the other is false. It may be, and often is, that each represents a different perspective on reality. In heaven, there is truth. On earth, there are truths. We can sing the benediction. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live.
From you I receive,
To you I give,
together
together
we share, and
from
from
this
we
we
live.
live. Now Bill will take us away.